Academic yo in their leadership rococo, leadership rababare.
It's all the serious stuff,
but with a light-hearted twist.
I'm Sandra Ezekwesili.
And I'm Aghogho Oboh.
Join us 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. every weekday.
Right here.
On Hard Facts. On Hard Facts.
Hello, Lagos. Good afternoon. I am Sandra Ezekwesili, and these are your hard facts. Most weeks here on Hard Facts, we commemorate international days that have been declared by the UN. And guess what? Today is the mother of all days. Today is the day of days. It's the day the UN set aside to commemorate the UN. So happy United Nations Day. The United Nations credits itself with stopping the world from sinking into another world war. And there have been no world wars since it was formed. And the UN also works to eradicate hunger, childhood disease, and now climate change, among many other efforts. Here on Hard Facts, we're working very hard as well. We bring you the best insights into today's most important topics, including UN Day. We break them down, we give you the facts, and you form an informed opinion. If you missed any of last week's shows, get on YouTube and watch Nigeria Info FM. We've got a great show for you today. We're starting with the big three. Nigeria improves on ease of doing business index. Corpers will get paid new minimum wage from December. And police raid yet another fake rehab center, this time in Adamawa. It's Thursday, so we're bringing you Eyewitness as usual, where you can call in with the news happening in your area. On the Big Hard Fact, we are going to look at the role that the United Nations plays in Nigeria as we mark World UN Day. And then we'll wrap up the show with listed Lagosian. Iretibakara Yusuf will be interviewing Yinka Davis. You know her. She is so energetic. Ah, God. Love her. Love her. You want to see Lagos through Yinka Davis's eyes today at 6:30. Make sure you're listening when that show comes on, listed Lagosian. As usual, throughout the show, we're bringing you the latest updates from the world of news, sports, entertainment, and business. But let's get right into the big three.
This is the Big Three.
The Big Three. On Hard Facts.
On 99.3 Nigeria Info.
You know what to expect on the big three, stories that everyone is talking about right now. Has it gotten easier to do business in Nigeria? How do you feel about Copper Alawi increasing? And should we stop calling these rehab centers rehab centers? Let's get into these stories, shall we? Our first story, Nigeria has climbed up the yearly rankings of the Ease of Doing Business Index. We're now the 131st easiest country in the world in which to do business. That's an improvement from 146th last year. The presidency has given the credit to this jump to the efforts of the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PEBEC. Nigeria is one of the top 10 most improved countries in the world on the index this year. It's the second time in 3 years that we have been in the top 10. Great news, eh? It seems like so often when we get news about these international rankings, we have Nigeria falling behind in good things and surging ahead in bad things. But this time, here we are, steadily improving in a category that every Nigerian says we need to improve on. If you give me 100 naira for every time you call into this show to tell me we need to have an enabling environment for business, we need an enabling environment for, I would have been able to buy Nigeria Info by now. And here we are. Our enabling environment for business is improving, according to the World Bank. Now, it's not yet Uhuru, it's not yet Uhuru. We're still 131 out of 190. But many Nigerians are saying that to jump 15 spots in 1 year is very impressive. But at the same time, this new statistic becomes very interesting when you remember that just last week, the president said a lot of the data and statistics that international agencies publish about Nigeria is false or inaccurate. So, when today the presidency started tweeting this new survey result from the World Bank, a lot of people on social media started raising their hand and asking, excuse me, sir, sorry, uncle, excuse me, uncle, sorry, oh, don't be annoyed, don't be annoyed. Isn't this one of those international agencies, the ones with the inaccurate statistics? Should we reject this one too, But on a serious note, ease of doing business, this ease of doing business index, it's a big deal. A lot of risk assessment agencies and consultants who do country analysis for potential investors use it as a starting point. So the commentators say that we may be able to expect some more favorable narratives about Nigeria based on this. But let me ask you, do you do business in Nigeria? Has it gotten easier for you in the last year? Honestly, I want honest answers. If you do business in Nigeria, has it gotten easier for you in the last year? Do you agree or disagree with the survey? Do you think that if the government accepts these findings, by the way, they should also accept other reports from the international community that are not as favorable? Call me and tell me what you think. Our numbers are 01277 0993. That's the number for our female callers. 01277 0993. You can also call me on 01277 1993, 2993, and 3993. We're streaming this on Facebook and on YouTube, Nigeria Info FM. I want to hear your thoughts. YouTube, Nigeria Info FM, Facebook, Nigeria Info FM, Twitter as well, Nigeria Info FM. Let me know what you think of this situation. We've got our first call, and they're still trying to put that call together for us. So let me go to Joseph. Hello, Joseph. Welcome.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Very well. How are you?
You are very right. But I want to tell the federal government that if actually they will accept this one. Now, if they are also told that Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world, they should accept it also. Now, for the ease of doing business, my quiz packed up last year due to harsh realities in Nigeria. It's the truth. That is just the truth, I'm telling you. And we have to move into something else. So there is no, for me, that thing, it's easy for them to work out something. And for them to have criticized every other aspect of the Central Bank, accept this one, and they are treating it. It's just for the people that will accept it. For us, we need to reflect in the life of the people. That is what I want to tell them. Let them accept also that Nigerians are suffering, and they are the capital, they are the poverty capital of the whole world. Number one. God bless you.
Thanks for calling me. Today's a good day. This is a day of jubilee. Can we rejoice a little bit? And then back to that, rejecting the reports about negative things and accepting it when it's a positive thing. How is it different from you, who, when you pass in school and you get an A or a B or a C, you say, "Oh, I got an A in that course, or a B in that course, or a C in that course." But when you get a D or an E or an F, you say, "Oh, then give me D." How's it different from what's happening over here? We've got Richard in Onika who disagrees. What do you disagree with, Richard?
I want to disagree with them because they don't always accept blame. When they are blamed, they'll bring a report that those people are not sincere. Now they are good at the report is okay. So I disagree with them. That's my mistake.
Okay. Disagree with the survey, he says. I wonder if Walter disagrees as well. I'm looking for people who are happy about this and who will celebrate this alongside myself. Walter's in Victoria Island. Hello, Walter. Welcome.
Okay. Am I close to the studio?
Yes, you are in the live studio. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, the truth about it is that right now the government have accepted this because it agrees and it will boost their current position within the country. However, we are not seeing anything new because previously, anything the previous government did wrong, the government will disassociate itself from it, even though they are the ones implementing it. Anything they did right and it materialized under them, they claim all the glory for it. So we are faced with the government of the city. Personally, I know someone who registered an enterprise since February this year. The money has not returned. Up till now, they've not been able to solve the issues. But however, I want to believe that these people are right. They've gone to do a research on a whole lot of people, more than me, that is just about one person. So I would say kudos to the government, but they should learn to accept reality as we face on ground. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for calling me, Walter. Abdul Fatai is the last call we'll take. I'll move on to our second story. Also some good news. We've got Abdul Fatai says, this is good. Welcome, Abdul Fatai. Good afternoon.
Yeah. This is Abdul Fatai from Implementer.
Yes, go ahead.
To me, it's a welcome development. As it's jumping 15 spots within a year, it's a welcome development. And I hope for the very best for this Nigeria. And it's ours. No place like home. And there will never be any country like Nigeria as far as I'm concerned. Then another thing again, I hope they develop the Aghogho Steel Complex as best as possible as they can. Thank God they've signed the deal with Russia, because I feel that's one of the best countries that are capable of handling that site for Nigeria.
Okay.
So that's my opinion.
That's your submission. Thank you, Abdul Fatai, for calling to share it. You can still comment on the first story when you call us to talk about the second one, where the Minister for Youth and Sports, Sunday Dare, has said that serving members of the National Youth Service Corps will have their monthly allowance, nicknamed Alawi, increased to the new minimum wage. He said the NYSC boss would give full details on the implementation next week after being briefed by him, Dare, and the Minister of Finance. Meanwhile, the Federal Executive Council yesterday instructed the Minister of Finance to begin payment of the new minimum wage and the adjusted salary scale on or before December 31st of this year. The FEC, in its weekly meeting, also mandated that the salary increases should reflect from April of this year. And finally, the Minister of Finance and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, has said that the new minimum wage and consequential adjustment will raise salary and personnel costs from 3 trillion naira this year to 4.9 trillion naira next year. That's a 66% increase. Now, first of all, let me say that Corpers are enjoying. Oh my God. Do you remember how much alawi you received as a Corper? I don't want to depress myself. I really don't want to go down that road. But I want us to look at the numbers for a moment, yeah? There are about 100,000 corps members a year. Based on a previous analysis that we did on a previous episode of the Big Three, using data from the NYSC, we've got about 100,000 coppers a year. 30,000 naira multiplied by 100,000 coppers gives you 3 billion naira a month. A month. So if every copper gets the minimum wage, we will spend 36 billion naira on alawi next year. Now, I told you what the finance minister said. Our wage bill is about to jump from 3 trillion naira to 4.9 trillion naira. Almost 5 trillion. Meanwhile, according to the 2020 budget, our total expected revenue next year is 8 trillion naira. That's all federal government revenue from oil, tax, customs duty, POS charges, cash deposit charges, everything. 8 trillion naira. And almost 5 trillion naira of it goes to salaries and personnel costs. That's 62%. But guess what? The actual revenue is usually lower than the expected revenue. So, for example, our expected revenue this year was 7 trillion naira. But as the finance minister told us, we only earned about 3.9 trillion naira. That's just a bit more than half. This year, we were supposed to make more than 7 trillion naira, but by halfway through the year, we had only made 2 trillion. So this means that we are on course to make 4 trillion this year again. Again, about half. So if government is budgeting a revenue of 8 trillion naira for 2020, the track records suggest a bit more than half of that. So maybe 4 point something trillion? And what's our personnel cost again? 4.9 trillion. So it appears that we are on course to spend all our revenue on salaries and personnel costs and borrow for everything else. Now, in light of these numbers, do you think that Nigeria can afford to pay Alawi of 30,000 naira? Do you think the new salary scale for the public service is sustainable? How do we get out of this situation of using all our revenue or personnel costs and funding the rest of our budget with debt? How do we get out of it? It's a big issue. And it's one that you'll share your thoughts with me on after this break. You're listening to The Big Three on 99.3 Nigeria Info. The show is Hard Facts, and I am Sandra Ezekwesili, your host. Don't go away.
Right here on The Big Three on 99.3 Nigeria Info. This is the Big Three.
The Big Three on Hard Facts.
On 99.3 Nigeria Info.
On the Big Three today, Nigeria improves on ease of doing business index. Corpers will get paid new minimum wage from December. And yet another raid reveals another fake rehab center, this time in Adamawa. And I'm asking you on the Big Three today, has it gotten easier to do business in Nigeria? And how do you feel about copper alawi increasing? More importantly, now that you have all the figures, because I gave you these numbers, right, before the break. In light of these numbers, do you think Nigeria can afford to pay alawi of 30,000 naira? Do you think the new salary scale for the public service is sustainable? How do we get out of this situation of using all our revenue on personnel costs and funding the rest of our budget with debt? I'm Sandra Ezekwesili. You're listening to the Big Three on Hard Facts. This is 99.3 Nigeria Info. Professor Bola? No, I think that's a guest that they're trying to call. So let me talk to somebody else. Hello.
Hello, Miss Sandra.
Yes, welcome.
Sorry, I called you back.
It's okay.
Now, my time is also drawn on the issue of budget, the one you analyzed before the break. Miss Sandra, Nigeria is owing over 20 trillion. Now, their budget is to get money to fund the budget based on taxes. Everything visually has been increased in this country. You pay now more on VAT, the rest. And the central bank is not helping you. They are already on the bank to charge more. Now, my concern is, next year we will borrow, and the year to come we will borrow. Next 8 years, Ms. Sandra will borrow. How do we pay these debts? Are you going to increase the VAT to maybe 16% now to be able to meet up? If it has increased to 7.2 already. So next year they will borrow. This year they borrow 3 billion. Next year they will borrow. There is no plan whatsoever where they will get money. So we are in for harsh time. So I'm just sorry for this country. And that defeat that we've been living with for a very long time. Oh, it will better. Every other country went through this. There are countries that didn't suffer like this. I'm telling you. And I fear where we get money to offset their plans for this country, because this VAT you see that is 7.2 today will increase to 30% in the next.
Let's hope not. All right, let's not be I don't know, prophets of doom, economists or something. We've got Mr. Darlington who disagrees with me. All right, what do you disagree with?
Hello. Sandra.
Yes. Good evening. You disagree with me?
Yes, I do. I disagree with you and the government.
Okay. Okay.
The figure you gave us is not, it cannot be verified though.
Which one? Which of the figures?
The figure they told you that we are going to spend so much on salaries and personnel costs, 4.something trillion.
It cannot be verified. How?
It cannot. They are just telling you.
Okay. But even if it cannot be verified, these are the figures, the official figures. It's figures from government, so they are the official figures. They're the figures we're working with. When you work with those figures, and I
can't work with it because there is no sincerity there.
I see.
Let them get an independent auditor to verify their income and expenditure, including the ones they are pocketing, which nobody is telling us. Or is corruption gone in Nigeria? You mean from now till next year, they will not steal over a trillion? All the government officials, from the executive to legislature to all their agencies and all that. You mean from now till December, Nigeria will not lose 1 trillion naira that will not be accounted for? No, is it possible? So where is that money? That is what I'm saying. Add all the figures together. You don't just come and tell us, look, we paid money to U.S. government to give us arms the other day. These arms are yet to be supplied, over $500 million. Sandra, who does that? And now we are going to China again, to Russia again, to sort for the same fighter jet. Is it free? No, look at it now. If you don't have money, how do you go about to one item you have paid for it in 3 places? The one for South Africa is still there. The $15 million. Nobody has told us what happened to that money. So when you look at it, I don't have sympathy for government. They are just collecting all this money for their own profligacy. It's not that Nigeria does not have money.
All right, let me talk to Dara in Victoria Island, who thinks government isn't being sincere about Copper Alawi. What do you mean, Dara?
Yeah, Larry, I think my sister is funny. A lot of pronouncements have been going on by some characters within the government, thinking that they are playing on the intelligence of Nigeria. But they don't know that we've put the film. We are watching the movie. We have seen a lot of parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, ended in part 10. Now they've started with season 1, season 2. And tomorrow somebody will tell you that the calculation they made, they could not meet up with the resources. You remember when this FIRS man was, immediately they came in, you hear a lot of pronouncements. At this moment, we are making trillions. We've made 5 trillion. We've made 4 trillion. They count every year in, year out. Until sometime this year when Mama Ndaura, is it Mama Ndaura Akari, questioned the authenticity of those pronouncements.
No, you're talking about Abba Kyari, not Mama Ndaura.
Abba Kyari, yes, Abba Kyari. Question the authenticity of those figures. Now we are not hearing Fowler again with all those bogus revenue generation and whatnot. I don't know whether it was the election, this thing that carried all those theories. And now what we are hearing now is that we don't have money. But I think I disagree with almost all those things. Nigeria has money. We continue to sell crude. These guys continue, to make money, create avenue to make money. And the question we continue to ask them is, where are all this money going? Nobody is talking about Abacha loot. They've released that. It is a past story. The story has died a natural death. What they use with that money, nobody will say. And now somebody is coming up again, just like they played on the workers with the 30,000 minimum wage. The workers were celebrating during the election, and when the chips were done, now they are in another meeting with the same man that made the promises and they later denied. So now the Minister of what do you call it, sports, now he's talking about increasing Alawi, even when the government is claiming that there was no funds. And we have seen the budget. I don't know whether that budget carries that particular Alawi is. Maybe you have calculated it, how many billion every month. That is what this guy is promising. I don't know why people would like to deceive themselves and think that they are deceiving Nigerians. We are watching movie. We have entered season.
Should we not do more than watching movies? Should we not do more than entering season? I mean, if Nigerians feel like they're being deceived, should you just sit there and watch the deceit? Now, this, of course, is not to agree that there's any deception going on, but to follow that argument to its logical conclusion, where is the logic in just sitting there and watching the movie? If you don't like a channel that is playing in your house, you usually just change the channels. The final story, the police have raided yet another fake rehabilitation center, this time in Yola, Adamawa State. According to the police command in the state, they freed 11 people who had been held captive for over a year. The captives were tortured and subjected to what the police called, quote, inhumane conditions. This is the third reported in the space of a week, and the fourth in a month. There had been 2 previous fake rehab centers found in Kaduna State and 1 in Katsina. And in all cases, the police liberated tortured captives and arrested people suspected of running the centers. This is an epidemic. There's no other word to use. Hundreds of people have been liberated from these 4 centers. And at this point, I think it's safe to stop calling them rehabilitation centers because according to the police, there was no rehabilitation going on in these places. Bondage and torture are obviously not rehabilitation. This story has been dominating news and social commentary. And one question keeps coming up. How many more are there? How many more are there? A lot of Nigerians believe that for the police to find 4 such torture chambers in 3 different states within the space of a month, there must be numerous others still undetected. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but we're going to keep bringing these cases up on the Big 3 because it is big news that hundreds of Nigerians are being held captive, unnoticed, for months or years and subjected to torture. It raises a lot of questions. According to some social commentators that I've heard, it raises so many questions about how this can happen. Some of these commentators will say things like this can happen because we have a lot of ungoverned space and a lack of police presence. We argued about this on I Beg to Differ a few days ago, and you said that the people were more to blame than the police. Even though some people called me and argued that the police are more to blame about this continuing, this going unnoticed. Because if the people, the neighbors, see these kinds of things and raise alarm, the police will come in and do their job because they cannot be everywhere. But some people say, well, the police should be able to do this. This is why community policing is important. Because think about this. If a man's family hands him over to a torture chamber, there was no police officer who regularly patrolled their streets and who noticed that, I've not seen James in a while. What happened to James? And of course, the idea that people could chain dozens of people in a house for years and nobody around them raised an alarm. It's curious now. It makes you wonder how much were the neighbors and community members collaborating with these torture chambers, or at least choosing to look the other way. I have to ask your thoughts again. Do you think there's collusion? Do you think these torture chambers are enjoying some sort of protection? If one of your neighbors were running a torture chamber, do you think you would notice? And if you notice, would you report it to the police? If one of your neighbors right now in this Lagos were running a torture chamber, do you think you would notice? And if you did, would you report it? 01277 0993, 01277 1993, 01277 2993, and 01277 3993. Let's see how many people we can talk to before we wrap up the Big 3 today. Hello? 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 Hello?
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Hello?
Who are you scolding? Who has dirty clothes?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
This is Wale from Ariku, actually.
Welcome, Wale.
Yeah. Okay. First is to congratulate the Corpers who will now be receiving minimum wage.
How much did you receive when you served, Wale?
I started receiving 7,500 or so.
Oh God, depressing, eh?
And then 7,500. And I remember I got my bicycle allowance 1,150 or so that time.
Oh,
it was funny.
Enjoyment.
Yeah, so I think it's a good one. I also think that the minimum wage that has been approved, and the fact, you see, one thing that is good there is that, workers will now receive payments from, April. So they will get a lot of arrears. So congratulations to all workers. It's going to be a wonderful December for everybody. That is the reality. Because if somebody has 40,000 or 30,000 naira in 6 or 7 places, I imagine what it will be. That will buy the goat for Christmas, clearly. So I'm just trying to make it light so that people can enjoy themselves.
All right.
Yeah. So, but on the issue of economy, I believe over time we need to work things out. All of us need to be very productive. We should stop complaining. If government say we should plant rice, all of us should go to farm and plant rice. If government says this is the direction we want to go, all of us should exert our energy on those areas. We can't just be complaining. Let's act. What are the actions that each of us would? The government said, let's eat our own rice. So can we just go to farm? We had a lot of rain this year, so much rain. What are we doing about it? How can we contribute our own quota? Let's behave like the Americans. What can you do for Nigeria? Other than what Nigeria can do for you.
Some people will tell you that they're already doing a lot for Nigeria. Let's talk to two more people and then wrap up. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, how are you? Oh, that's quite unfortunate. The last call for the show today. Joseph, you've called me before, yes?
Please, father name is Sandra.
No, let me talk to one more person. Hello? Unfortunately, that person isn't there. All right, let me talk to Sanya. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry, from Ikorodu.
Okay,
Please,
welcome.
The figure you gave, your analysis, where does the SS crude fit in? That's another income for us now. Why are they not adding it? It is part of our income. They share it. They never add it. Who are they fooling? I'm tired of this country.
Don't be tired. Don't be tired. Andrew, don't check out. Eyewitness is coming up next. Don't go away.
Hard Facts will be right back.